Everyone in Web3 says they want community, but does anyone really know what that means? Let's be real. Most communities in Web3 are not really communities. They're just chat rooms with a countdown to a token launch. In this video, we're going to unpack why Web3 communities feel dead inside nowadays, what real communities actually look like, and how to build one that doesn't vanish after TGE. Hey, I'm Ramsey from Jello, and we help crypto projects build their narrative, derive their go-to-market strategy, build distribution, and ultimately help them succeed. And if you're building in Web3, you know that community can be one of your biggest moats and biggest points of distribution for your product. So it's really important that we understand how to get it right. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. The first thing that we need to understand is this illusion of community in crypto and Web3. Now, for the last couple of years, the meta has been to incentivize usage of products and incentivize the building of communities through rewards and questification platforms and whatnot. And this has led to a lot of mercenary usage of products and mercenary infiltration of communities and kind of diluting that community and making it very mercenary and very focused on that bag. Now, there are some truths that have come around in the market that are kind of like staple at the moment when it comes to building a community and when it comes to the constituents of community that we really need to understand in order to traverse this situation of building that community in the first place. And the first is that mercenaries are really extractive, and they're purely extractive actually. Once they've got their bag and they've got whatever they've wanted to get out of the project, they move on to the next shiny thing. Their job is to rotate and farm and rotate and farm, and that's all they care about. They don't care about your product. They'll tell you that they do because they might earn more from it, but at the end of the day, they are just there to make a quick buck. The second is that real community is relational. It's peer-to-peer. It's not just a relationship between the brand and the people. And obviously mercenaries, being quite selfish people, dilute this. And you see this a lot in communities in Discord where it's all kind of just like GM and very shallow conversation. No one's really contributing to driving the growth of the product. They're just all kind of caring about when's the token, when's this, when's that. And that is not what it's about. Now, it becomes whatever you want it to become about, but when it comes to building a product and building a community of users, these people are not interested in that. They're just interested in the token that they think you're going to launch, and this kind of dilutes your community dynamics in the aspect of relationships and relationship building. The third thing is that real users don't need incentives to use the product. It is true. If the product really solves a pain point of theirs, they don't need to be paid to use it because they get value from having their pain point solved. But the issue is it might take a while to find those users. And so people just like to use questification platforms like ones I would mention, but they use those to basically build up that early community and show that there's people there. But this kind of dilutes the point of the community and really doesn't aid in the progressing of your product in the long term. It might help in showing exchanges and stuff that you have community, but it doesn't really help driving product feedback, driving real engagement with the product and the brand, because these people are just there for the sake of their bag. And that brings me on to the last point. Bots and numbers don't equal community. These things are incentivized from the top down, from exchanges to launchpads, who want to see these numbers because it helps them de-risk their decision, right? If they have plausible deniability that there could be 200,000 people waiting for this token who are going to buy on the exchange, and that's what they want to see and that's what they want to list. Now, they know that this isn't real and everyone else knows that it's not real, but it still plays out the same way. And it's something that we just have to accept, that this is kind of where the market is at the moment. No one's really doing anything about it. And it's really important that we just understand these are some of the truths of the market at the moment. Now, again, one of the biggest mistakes that founders make is that they don't accept these truths or they are blinded to these truths. So it's really, really important that you understand these things before you go ahead and build your community. But what's that piece that really helps people build those communities in the first place? What's the difference between an empty Discord and a thriving interpersonal and connected network of people? Well, that's something that we're going to explore in this video. So stay tuned and we'll figure out what those things are later in the video. So that begs the question, what is a real community in the first place? Well, to us, a real community is a self-sustaining social system, and to build one, you need at least 2 out of the 3 types of alignment. And if you're in an ideal state, you need all 3, especially if you're in crypto. Now, the first type of alignment is here. It's cultural alignment. Now, this is your belief system. It's the shared values, the memes, the tone, the mission, the vibe of the community that you're building. It's the worldview that people opt into when they join your community, and it's what they want to contribute to in order to maintain their place in that community. Think of it like early Ethereum. You had this product, you had this token, but you also had this sense of, hey, we're building this decentralized permissionless technology that allows us to do X, Y, Z and break free of these other different things that are holding us back. And that culture and that worldview and that mission, that vision was what brought people in the first place. That's the culture that we're trying to cultivate here in our community. The second type of alignment is what we call economic alignment. And how I describe this is basically the value that people get out of your product. And so what I mean by this is when you're economically aligned with a product or with a community, you are getting value out of that community. Now, this can be in the form of a product. For example, if I use Hyperliquid, I get value from Hyperliquid. But let's say there's a really good network of people who are in a community. For example, if I join the Stonks group chat and there's loads of cool people there and they help me win business or they help me with my trading and I get economic value from that, that's the second type of alignment there as well. So it's essentially when we're getting more economic value from being in that community, from using the product, that's the alignment that we're looking for. And that's really, really important to have, because otherwise your value proposition is quite weak and not very sustainable. And the last one is financial alignment. So this is obviously a paradigm that has been brought about through tokens. I guess you can say if you're in traditional stock market that if you own shares in a company, you have financial alignment. But again, it's like the notion of shared upside. So the tokens help bind people to the community in a stronger way because they have the opportunity to earn more by contributing to the growth of that project. It is an important piece of alignment in crypto, but if you have it by itself, it's just speculation and it's not really any sort of belonging. Now, one thing that we have to remember is that ideally we should have 2 or 3 out of these different types of alignment, because if we don't, our value proposition is very weak. If you just have economic alignment, you might get overtaken by people with economic and cultural alignment. If you just have cultural alignment, there's not enough value there to keep people active in the community. They might go somewhere else as people, want to make money. And if you just have financial alignment, you incentivize a lot of mercenary behavior because people just want to make their money, move on to the next shiny thing, and there's nothing really keeping them there sticky with the brand. One example of this could be, again, Ethereum. They have cultural, financial, and economic alignment, which allows for an enduring ecosystem that has lasted since 2014 all the way until now and even further beyond. Despite all the challenges, despite all the other competitors that have been released, they are still held extremely strong with an extreme sense of their community values is still intact. Compare that to, let's say, an airdrop campaign where you're just running an airdrop campaign for a meme coin and the meme coin doesn't do anything. There's just like a bit of culture there because it's a fun meme coin, but it's not super strong. And of course, people just want to make money because it's a meme coin. But after the thing launches and maybe it pumps, maybe it dumps, people are just going to go on to the next thing and cycle through different types of products like that. So there's not enough stickiness when you only have 1 or 2 of those pieces of alignment. If you have all 3, especially if you have a token, you need that financial alignment. It's going to be there regardless. So you have to make sure that the other 2 are strong. If you don't have a token, you just need economic and cultural alignment. But again, it's all about what type of product you have and if you have a token or not. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that you shouldn't be building a community for the sake of building a community. There's nothing to band behind it. There's nothing to support. And if your product doesn't lean into it, you don't really need a community. For example, if you're building DAO tooling, it's probably not necessary to have a community in the traditional sense in the first place. Remember, your community is there so people can gather around your product or a mission that they can stand behind, right? It's a place for them to congregate. So I've said here, you build so people can gather around your product or a mission that they can stand behind, a common cause that can really support. And without that, your community is going to have a very hard time sustaining itself, right? They really need to have strong belief. Even if you have other things like value accrual from that community, there has to be a reason why people are congregating in the first place. And this could be a lot of different things, but it should have some commonality between all those people. A real community emerges when people derive value from the product itself. They share your ideals, their beliefs, and your vision, and they feel like they belong to something greater, right? Ultimately, we're building a place for people to thrive and that they can contribute to in order to grow that pie. Now, as a founder, the most important thing is to design the space that allows that connection to happen. And that means setting the culture, defining the ideals, defining the rules per se, right? Defining the behavior, showing people what type of people belong in this community. That's something that a lot of people don't do properly. They don't QA their early community, but we'll get onto that in a bit. The second thing is creating the space, right? A Discord, a forum, an in-person event, whatever it might be. Provide that space for the community to become. The third is introducing rituals. So how do we keep people there? Calls, contests, memes, routines, all these different things are used at a tactical level to do this and essentially build rituals. But this can go beyond that. This could be dinners, this could be networking calls, this could be webinars and seminars. This could be anything that is pertaining relevant to your target audience. And finally, you as a founder need to help activate other people. And this is a concept we'll get into much later in the video if you stick around. Make sure that there is a shared sense of mission and peer relationships within the community. That's how it scales. So that begs the question, how do we really build a community step by step? Well, it all starts with this notion of understanding why and how we're building this community and who for. And if you watch any of my other videos, you know that I'm a big sucker for this concept called fundamental context or foundational context. And what we're trying to identify here is the product and the audience that we're trying to serve. Are we launching an L1 blockchain, or are we launching a prediction market or a DEX or a game? These things are really important to understand because the type of product that we're launching shapes the type of community that we're trying to build at the same time. People who are looking to be building on an L1 are going to be different from the gamers, who are going to be different from the traders in terms of how they interact with the community and what they're looking for. So it's important that we really understand what we're building in order to create that community in the right way. The second thing is, again, who we want to engage, right? Who is that ideal community member? What is their behaviors, their desires, their motivations, their values? What kind of people are they, and what are they looking to gain from being in a community? Once you're clear on these, you can go ahead and build out the rest of your community, because this should provide you a lot of the answers that you're looking for when it comes to your tactical implementations. The second thing is looking at the right channels, right? So where do we want to host these people? Again, depending on the context, we can choose. Is it in person? Is it online? Is it in Discord, Telegram? Is it on Slack? Is it on Twitter? These things can be decided when we understand who our users are. The third thing is to build with intention. It's really, really important that we are intentional with our early community, because this is the most important and the hardest step. The early community will set the tone for the short and medium term growth of your community until it becomes too big and decentralized, if that's what you're looking for. When you're building a community, it's really important to invite those initial people who can represent the brand in its best form. So we always recommend inviting friends and family who would be ideal users or members of this community, and then asking them to invite people who they think will be a good fit as well. So you build a network of people who are really, really in line with the brand off the bat. And that way, when new people come in, they can decide, okay, cool. Based on the people here, am I a good fit? Am I not a good fit? Do I want to be part of this? Do I not want to be a part of this? Because obviously, your early community is going to represent the brand in the strongest way, because they're the people who are there from day one. And that's what people see when they come in. So really make sure to curate that early vibe, that great early group of people who embody your brand and the purpose and are going to be the ideal users for your product if you have a product as well. And the fourth thing is creating rituals and reasons to stay. And this is one of the most important things, and also very, very hard. It's how do you organically maintain engagement and accrue value for members? Well, ultimately, it's about creating experiences for them, right? Again, we understand our user. We know how to engage them organically without having to pay them, without running airdrop campaigns and quest campaigns. We can engage them organically. So they accrue value from being in the community, from being in the product ecosystem, from just being there and contributing to the cause. Now, not everyone will align with your vision on day one, so it's important that these people also see the vision beyond what they see at that point of joining. It's your job to really help them see the value in being in that community and engaging them in the right way. Now, some ways that you can help drive this engagement would be to foster connection between members. You can help them build skills or access tools that help them build skills. For example, you can run seminars and webinars, or if you're an L1, a really nice one is to provide a job board, which I'll get onto in a little bit. You can offer roles, recognition, opportunities for people in the community who are contributing and showing active participation, but also aligned with your ideals, and rewarding that good behavior with non-monetary benefits is a really powerful tool to show people that you're really serious about building this out. Again, if you're a DEX, you could run a trading seminar, have an elite alpha group for the top traders. If you're an L1, you could have a job board. Let's say there's a designer in the community who really wants to contribute, and there's a DEX building on your L1. Well, if you have a job board, that designer can apply for a job set by that DEX. They can work together, they can create a relationship, and they can move it from there. They can build those peer-to-peer relationships. Both sides get value, and you're the facilitator of that value. So those are the core 4 steps that I think are necessary to creating a community. But there's a couple secrets that people like to hide, and I'm going to show them out here. The first secret is to build grassroots. Now, what does this really mean? Building grassroots means being very active in the early days as a founder, right? You're not just there to delegate to some community manager. You should be there talking with every single person, knowing who they are, knowing what they want out of this community, knowing why they joined, and knowing what they want to contribute. Now, this is something that is pretty intuitive, but I think it was very clear that it was the way to go when I heard Shu Yao, or Brother Bing from Mega Eat, say it at a conference. She was basically saying how when it comes to the developer community and the developer ecosystem on Mega ETH, they make a big effort to not just talk about, hey, how's your product coming along, but also asking about their family, how's their life doing, and really building relationships on a human level. That's how you build a bond, and the bonds keep people together. So it's really important that you're building grassroots and understanding your users so that when it comes time for them to provide that feedback and really engage with the product, you know who you can rely on for real feedback. You know who you'll be there when you're struggling and who you can lean on when you need someone to talk to, or you need someone to kind of help with direction because they've been there from day one. You know them personally. You've created that relationship. You've created that bond. And it's now time for you guys to kind of grow this together. So grassroots, building of communities, building those relationships with your community is very, very important. And if you do incentivize campaigns, you're not going to get this. You can't talk to all those people at the same time, and these people don't care because they're all mercenaries. So really take the time to curate that early community, build those relationships between you and them, and go from there. Now, that leads very nicely on to the second secret tip, which is the power of inter-community relationships. Now that you've built your relationship with these people, it's now time for you to connect these people together, because that's how you're going to create real value. A scalable community, one that is tight-knit and growing, like Solana's super team, are all built on these inter-community relationships. And again, if you have a job board of sorts or ways to activate these many-to-many relationships, it's a really good way to bring people together. For example, I could run a community and there could be Bob, who has joined, he's a designer. There could be Derek, who is looking for a designer for his project. I connect them. Bob gets value from getting the job, Derek gets his job done, they become friends, they have a relationship, and I'm the one facilitating that relationship. And if people can know that they can come to our community and meet people who can bring value, or they can become friends, and you can create these interpersonal relationships, that's what's going to help you scale whilst maintaining the tight-knit nature of that community with strong values, strong ideals. And again, that's how I think Super Team have done it, and done it in a very, very strong way. Very, very powerful, and that's why the Solana community is also very tight-knit. So one of the biggest secrets to building a community is these interpersonal relationships that makes the community more resilient. The more collaboration and the more tightly bonded the community members are to each other, the stronger the community is as a whole, because you're lessening that one-to-many relationship that most projects have. That project-to-cheerleader mentality is now dissipating as more people have these inter-community bonds that are facilitated by you as a company. And obviously that's a signal for other people to join and be part of it and contribute to the cause. So I think we have to remember, great communities don't scale fast, they deepen first. So you have to make sure that you're always auditing for alignment and behavior to make sure that you're bringing the right people on board in the early days to really represent the brand and give the best view of the community to the outside world. Make sure that people are there for the right reasons, that they are building relationships with each other, or you are facilitating those relationships between the members, and that you are monitoring who's contributing, who's stepping up to make sure that they are getting the recognition and the value that they deserve out of the community. And that sets the standard for everyone else in the community as well. Treat it a bit like its own product, right? Design it, test it, iterate on it, and go from there. Most projects treat community as a byproduct, but it's not. It's part of your distribution. It's part of your feedback loop. It's part of your brand's defensibility against all other competitors. Again, take Solana as one of the best examples. There are lots of other high throughput chains out there, but loads of people are still in Solana because of the community. There's a nice loyalty loop that we recognize that is really important to think about when you're trying to build a community. And it looks like this. First, you start driving awareness to your product through your content and all the other marketing activations, bringing people into the community and giving them a taste for the value that you can provide with the product and the community. Then you then turn those into regular community members and have them then recontribute and evangelize the product back to the top of the awareness loop. So you're building an upward spiral where your new community members can contribute to the distribution of your product as well. So if you want help strategizing and building your community from the ground up in order to drive real product distribution and product usage that lives well beyond your token launch, at Jello, we can help. So feel free to drop us a message or jump on a call. All the links are in the description below. And as ever, if you like the video, found some value in it, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you in the next one.